Assalamu alaikum. Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Dear students, welcome to lecture number 22. Today we are going to discuss another category from the hierarchy, that is family. So outlines of the today lecture are, we will discuss what is family category, what are the characteristics of the family, significance of the family, and examples. Lecture outcomes. So after watching and listening to this lecture, students will know about the status of or the place of family category and the hierarchy classification. What is family? Family's characteristics, significance of family category. What was the view of Linnaeus according to regarding the family category or the birth of the family category, etc. So first, position of the family. So by position, family is the next higher category, and keep in mind this is macro taxonomy, number one. The second, we are now talking about the higher categories. So it's a next higher category to the genus, and keep in mind again that it's a high category than genus. Genus is the lowest of higher categories, and now family is next higher category to the genus. So first there is like at the bottom, at the foundation, there is a species, then there is genus, and then there is family. So as by position, there is next higher category to the genus. It is also an obligatory category, it's important, and it is accepted category properly. Family is a taxonomic category for a certain taxon that composed of a single genus or a group of related genera and is separated from other family by a decided gap. So, what is family? Family is a taxonomic category which is composed of taxons. That means it composed of genera, or it may be a single composed of a single genus, or maybe there are 2, 3, 4, 5 or many genera inside family. So family is constructed by placing a genus or genres in inside a family. And how we construct a family? When we correlate genres and by looking to their very common characteristics, so or common features, we place them in a group and we call that group as a family. And now one family is separated from another family by a decided gap, and like gap of the family is like the size of the family is inverse to the size of the genus. Now, as we discussed in the previous, like if genera included in a family are more, it will be separated from other families by a short gap and vice versa. Now, as I told you, that for example, we have genus X, Y, and Z inside a family A. There is a family A which has 3 genera, A is X, Y, and Z. There is another family B, and it has 5 or 6 genera. Then there is another family C which has 7, 8 or 9 like genera. So when the number of genera increase inside a family, the gap between that family and other families is decreasing, because more and more similar characteristics are adding. And when there are less or very few number of genera in a family, the gap between the families will increases, because the characteristics are going to less similar and less similar, but the gap is increasing. While when we are like we have a huge family, so the number the gap will be decreased or will decrease. Right? Because as the family size increases, more and more common characteristics will appear, and between this family and the other families, and that's why the gap will decrease. So however, on the other hand, genera are fixed inside family, because every genus has its own common and different characteristics from other genera inside a family. Now, family characters. So the family is usually distinguished by certain adaptive characters. Now, when we talk about species or subspecies, that is at a very minor level. We are talking at very minor level, where there are very minute and inconspicuous differences between the species, and which are very difficult to like observe, very difficult to look at them, very difficult to analyze. But as we go up and up genus and then to family and then so on and so on, when going up, so the characters are becoming very prominent one, very conspicuous one. So, like in case of the family, uh, sometimes it is very clear when we look at the animal, we just say that this animal belong to this family because the character are very prominent. So, like usually, family is distinguished or it is created or established by like accepting certain adaptive characters that fit it or a particular adaptive zone. For example, woodpeckers. Now, there is not just like for common people, woodpecker is a woodpecker. But for a zoologist, woodpecker is not just a woodpecker. Woodpecker is a very huge family of woodpeckers. Like Pisidae is a family of woodpeckers, and when you go inside that family, there are many genera, and then you go into each genus, there are many species, and then to go inside each species, there are many subspecies. So, like, but based on the common character that they are like woodpeckers. So, when you say the word woodpecker, you just think of adoptive zone. That these birds, the woodpeckers, are like they are adopted. Their beak are adopted in such a condition that they make dig holes and make nest inside the wood, and they also grab the grubs inside the woods by making holes into the grubs' nests. So another example is like leaf beetles, like Crassomelidae. So again, it is very clear from this name, leaf beetles. And then there are the swallows, Herminidae family, swallows. So there is not just a single swallow. Swallow is a very huge family, and etc. etc. Just go on, and there are many families. So, like very common, another example is family Ratati, the flightless birds. So there are a number of birds like Ratati is just not like a few birds. Ostrich as ostriches belong to Ratati, kiwi belong to Ratati, rheas belong to Ratati, cassowaries belong to Ratati. So all these flightless bird or running birds are belong to the family Ratati. But actually, the thing is that they are like not flying birds. So it's very simple. A family is distinguished by certain adaptive characters that fit it for a particular adaptive zone. And the more the different characters, so the more will be the wider gap from other families. So this is the more distinct the adaptive zone, the wider the gap from other families. So if a family is adopted to a very distinct adaptive zone, which is like very hard to adopt, so that family will have a wider grave from other such families which are like living or adaptive to the very common ecology. So that family which is like now take the example of woodpeckers. Like woodpeckers are very unique because not other birds can do what woodpeckers can do. So if a family is like adopted to a very different, a very unique ecology, so they will have a wider gap from other families. Mean, and the based on characteristic is not that gap. I mean the gap by characters. So the much if there is a huge difference in characters, the wider the gap is, and if there is less like difference in between their characteristics, so the lesser the gap is. So wider gap. Now, if a family is far from other families by a large gap of characteristics, it means that the characters of this family are much older, and in turn, this family is an old family. Further, such families are worldwide in distribution, because if a family is an old one, so you can find them like mostly, not all the time, but you can find such families throughout the world, distributed throughout the world, because they are older one, and with the passage of time they like dispersed, they distributed to various ecological zone of the world, and then they are like distributed worldwide. Significance of the family category. So families are like worldwide in distribution, and it is very useful category. How? Like for example, if an entomologist who is studying a certain family in Britain can find the same family in Africa. So if this entomologist, if he is studying a family of insects in Britain, and then he visit Africa, he can study the same family in Africa, and if he visit Australia, so he can study the same family over there. But keep in mind, the adoptive zone will be the same, and also he can find the same family at America. So it's like very easy. So a British entomologist recorded 422 families of insects in British Empire, belonging to 4,800 genera and more than 20,000 species. And he can recognize all the same families anywhere else with similar niches. So if he recognized 422 families of insects from British Empire, he can recognize these families from other parts of the world. So it is especially useful for general zoologists, because each family usually presents certain specific features that can be recognized at a glance. As I told you in the very start, that family characteristics are most of the time very clear. So you can, like at a glance, you can say, or and you can recognize, you can say this bird or this animal belong to this family, because the characteristics are very prominent one. So most or all of its species occupy a similar niche, or for instance, do most of the 1,000 species of Carambicidae longhorn beetles. So I will show you three or some more species of longhorn beetle. So just by looking at their structure, by their longhorn beetles, by their longhorns, you can see, and you can say that this beetle belong to longhorn or to Carambicidae. So Carambicidae. Discrete groups. Families can further be divided, like because of the huge families or families which are like where there is a huge number of animals inside them, organism. Like in case of these insects, there are like much number of organism insects are present. So that's why then we further divide them into superfamilies and subfamilies for convenience, for easiness. There are superfamilies in aphids and scale insects and water striders. So these insects, they have a large number, so that's why we then divide them into discrete groups. And now look at these longhorn beetles, the Cerambicidae family. So all these belong to Cerambicidae, and just by looking, if you are not an expert, even if you're not an expert, you can look just by a glance. You can say, by looking at these horns, you can say that this insect belongs to Cerambicidae or longhorn beetles. Subfamilies, like there are subfamilies, for example, warblers have salvedi, flycatchers have muscipedi, and shrikes have Linnaeus. So these, like warblers, salvedi, they have subfamilies, flycatchers have subfamilies, shrikes have subfamilies. These are traditional families of birds, like these salvedi, muscipedi, and Linnaeus. So identification of family. So normally identification of family is actually done through keys. So it's not like a lock and key thing. A key is a small book where the characteristics are given in a proper way, in a systematic way. So just you will open the book, and then you go for, like for example, you want to identify certain fishes. So you will go for the fish key identification key, fish identification key. You will open the key and then you will observe the fish. You will go for the characteristics. If these characteristics are present, this fish belongs to this family, and if these characteristics are present, these features are there, belongs to this. For example, if there are like the whiskers are present, so you say that this belong to catfish's family. Okay, so uh, uh, Siluriformes or many other families of fishes are there. So like by by means of keys you can identify a family by using keys, and these keys are usually like constructed by a taxonomist, an expert. Linnaeus' view about family. What was the view of Linnaeus regarding family? So Linnaeus, at that time, at the Linnaeus time, there were not too much a number of animals, not much animals or organisms were identified. So, like at that time in 1758, only 312 genera were known to Linnaeus, and it was enough for him to accommodate these genres into orders, into certain orders. But later on, when day by day, when it started, when it speed up, and when the number of like animals were added, like daily genres were added, species were added, and many other like organisms were identified day by day. So the need was felt, and then another category between genus and order family, it was like introduced um, to accommodate these animal species, because as I told you, at that time there were only 312 genera of animals, or like total 312 genera of organisms were there. But later on, when it increased, so like there was a need for addition of another category, so family was added there. So this is warbler family, as I told you. It's a very huge family of our traditional family of like birds, warblers. So all these belong to the family Salvidae. Birth of family. So the family categories was recognized in 19th century due to advancement in knowledge about existing animals, as I told you. So when more and more animals were discovered, so need was felt for an immediate category between genus and order, and then it was like added. Number of families. By the end of 19th century, about 1700 families of animals were recognized. So the latest count, according to Mayer, 5,600 families of metazoans and 580 families of protozoa, total approximately 6,200 families are like recognized. These are the differences. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, please ask.